So right now we're going to talk about how to easily source aircraft parts. And I'm sure you're overwhelmed with this process, and it can be clunky and time consuming. And I know and understand you spend a lot of valuable time sourcing aircraft parts. And what we're going to do right here, right now, is we're going to address some of the critical points to help make this process a little bit easier on you and your operation. And at the end of this video, I hope that it'll save you at least, at a minimum of 1 to 2 hours per week, depending on how much you are sourcing aircraft material. You know, as you go out and source aircraft material, it's not just about the time you spend sourcing aircraft parts and trying to find what you need. And depending on your aircraft and your fleet, that can be really complicated. And I'll share a link with you, and you can read more about this. But it's having to process all of that information. And you have all of these listing databases, which helps really make it easier to source material. But then you have to, go through approved vendors and sort through all the emails, enter all the quotes, look at the different options, and it becomes really time consuming. And as there's a number of studies that say it's the number of choices in a day that creates complications in people's life and people's operation. So it's not always is choices a good thing. And in some aspects it helps you save money. But oftentimes the choices that you're presented when you go out and source aircraft parts and aircraft material creates more complication for you and your operation. And what you can do is you can save hours of your time every single week. So the question is do you waste hours of your time sending, sourcing, and processing daily RFQs? And it's probably safe to say, yeah, you do. And we're going to address that right here and right now. You have all of this incoming RFQs and all of this paperwork, trace to approve, trace to make sure it meets your quality assurance guidelines, and all of this information. And it seems like as this picture shows, it seems like all of the paperwork and all the files just keep stacking up. And each day it gets more and more. You get the pile down, and more is added tomorrow because you have to source more material. And that's where the complication in sourcing aircraft parts material comes from. The top tip I have, the number one tip I have for you in sourcing your aircraft material and making it easier is to answer the question, who's your best material partner? They should make your life a whole lot easier. And to you and to depending on you and your operation, the answer to that question really does vary. But that's a critical question you must answer. Before you even go out processing RFQs and blasting your email list and sending the RFQ to everybody on the listing database, you first need to really figure out who your top 2, 3, 5 trusted material partners. Those should be your go-to source for when sourcing aircraft material. Whether they have a million parts in stock or whether they have 100,000, it doesn't matter. They should still be your go-to resource. They should reduce the amount and the load of you having to process aircraft material on a day-to-day basis. If they don't, the question is really what's their inherent value on a day-to-day level to you and your operation? And that's the question you must be willing to answer. When you do go out, and my face is right over this, so let me move it down, is one thing you really want to watch out for, and this is an inside tip, and maybe you know it, maybe you don't, is to watch your sale to quote ratio. If you're blasting 300 people on your email list, and if you're blasting everybody on these listing databases, they're going to be quoting you more than they're selling to you. And just like with you, that's time spent processing those quotes, entering them into the ERP system, sending them to you. And if the sale to quote ratio is extremely low, one, you might not get a quote. One, it might always be a no quote, which you process. And that's clunky, that's burdensome on you. So if you're mass sending out all these RFQs, your sale to quote ratio is going to be a lot lower, and that will impact you. They might not give you the best pricing. They might not give you the best service. So those things are really, really important to keep top of mind, is the sale to quote ratio. The next one is is a key term. Another key term really is don't blow up market. And a great example is this. Let's say you have an APU. You need an APU, and there's out of the 300 people on your email list, a good 1% probably have this APU. Yet you still send the email RFQ to everybody on your email list. Now, what everybody does, not everybody, but a large percentage of those people do, is they're now going to go out and source that APU for your needs. So what happens is it seems like there's a lot more demand than there actually is for this APU. And the demand and supply is prices could increase. So what happens is by the time you get all of these quotes in, is you might have a mixture of pricing because you blew up market because other people are now also sourcing that APU. And this can go, this can be for any high value unit, and oftentimes it can be for a C checklist or in any RFQ that you're sending out to a list, is you might not get the best pricing lead times that you would if you go to just 3 to 5 trusted material partners. So when you go out to source, avoid blowing up market. You'll pay more than you have to, and it just doesn't make sense. The next tip when going out and sourcing aircraft material is make things easier on yourself. This goes hand in hand with working with a trusted material partner. But if you're sending out to 300 people, and let's just say you won't always, let's say 300 people send you back an RFQ or a quote for your RFQ. But let's even make it more complicated. Let's say you have 3 line items on that RFQ, and you send it out to 300 people. Now you have all of this input and data coming into you, and it's just overwhelming. And then you have to sort through the people that you trust and that can make it easier on you. Try to simplify it. Make things easier. The number one goal for you is really to reduce costs and turnaround times. That's a given, and I'll get to the cost and the price in the next point. But also to get the material when you need it, not necessarily how you get it or from whom you get it, but that you get it and that it's a high standard component, goes through the right quality assurance programs. That's what matters. So make things easier. Tap into your trusted material partners. They should be able to consolidate. They should be able to make those points a lot easier, and they should make things simplified for you, because at the end of the day, you just need the parts, and that matters the most. My third point when sourcing aircraft material and parts is it's not all about price. And before you comment and start yelling at me, I know price is important. I get it. But let me ask you a question. If you have a $10,000 unit, right? Let's say you have 2 options, option A and option B, right? And option A is the price is $10,000. But option B, the price is $11,000. And let's say there's multiple items on this request and this order. Option A only gives you half of the material you'll need, which means you have to go out and source all of the other material, and you have to ship it from 2, 3, 4 different suppliers. But option B, a little bit more pricier from a total price standpoint, but it all comes from a single source. It's all coming from, you don't have to go out and source more material, all one shipping and airway bill, all one invoice, and it really simplifies that process. Step number 2, point number 2 I mentioned earlier, is what actually reduces your total cost. I'll wait a couple seconds while you think this through, because I know price is stuck in your head. It's cost. Option B will reduce your total cost, while price A has a better price advantage. Option B reduces your total cost. So it doesn't necessarily make sense. And you can look at those 2 different scenarios in different contexts, but it's not always about price. Another great example is, let's say you have option B or option A, and the option is $5,000. They don't have a historical, really very good quality assurance program. Answering your questions is always an issue. They're hard to get a hold of. But option B is $5,500. You have terms. They have an established quality assurance program. They're here. They're available to you 24/7 or whatever that is for that partner, and they always answer your questions. They're always available. They if issues pop up, they solve them. What's the advantage? Is it price or is it cost? Option B will over time reduce your cost. And if you can see over here, I have and it's on the spot is I have a raccoon. Here, let me show you. I have a raccoon. It just poking by my window, so distracting me. So on the fly video, what gets better than that? No editing here, and that's the most important, right? So really, when you go out and source, really think about price and total cost. Now, if you're mass sending to everybody and all of these RFQs and price is the one thing that is the most important to you, be careful. Be careful. In some aspects, that might be beneficial. In others, I would encourage you to look at the data and to see how much it's actually costing you, your team's time, and your operation from a cost and budgetary standpoint. So it's something really to dig into. And that is how you source an aircraft part strategically, is you go through these 3 different steps first. And then you start sending your RFQs and processing them. But if you make things easier, if you work with a trusted material partner, if you try to simplify this process as much as possible while driving the results you need, and if you focus on cost, total cost over just price, you're going to see the sourcing of your aircraft parts becomes a lot easier, a lot more efficient, and you start getting what you want when you want it. I am Nate England, the CEO at Skylink, and if you have any questions in regards to sourcing aircraft material, comment on this video wherever it's posted. And I encourage you to go to www.neverforgetyourwings.com, where we share all sorts of resources and topics and articles about this very stuff. So head on over there, and I will see you again.